by the power of Grayskull.
I made a bunny.
That's a big Twinkie.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cereal Box Price Podcast, the podcast that serves you 3 scoops of pop culture. And don't forget to buy our 3 scoops of pop culture, which is no sugar added for all you health nuts out there. But we have a great show for you guys lined up tonight, man. And I got a lot of stuff to get out of my head. And before, I always like to introduce my co-host. And last time I went insane. So I'm gonna do this in a light, similar way. I want to introduce to you the man that just warms the hearts, the apple pie of everybody's chai latte. He's the one that puts the smooth moves on all the toys. And no, not the boys. He's the one and only. The one that's always giving me daps. The one that's always saying, Steve, you got my back. He is my toy collector friend, my partner, my sidekick, my Leonardo to my Raphael, the man himself, Aaron Schmelzer.
The stuff you come up with always never ceases to amaze me. For a second there, I thought you were going to do some ASMR stuff, but you're talking like you put your Barry White voice on for a minute.
I love the nice slithering snake. Oh man, dude, there's a lot to talk about. But first, all right, I want to talk about the text message that you sent me today, because I was at work and I get a message from you, and it's just a picture, and it's a box, and when I'm looking at it, it's a bunch of PS2 games. I'm like, Aaron just sent me a picture of PS2 games, and then the next message I get is, hey, guess which game is worth a lot of money? And I'm like, is this like a Saw horror movie if I get the wrong one wrong? So I'm like zooming into the picture, and there's a lot of good games on it, and I'm like, okay, it's gotta be, what is it? Attack All Humans, the Alien game.
Destroy All Humans 2.
Destroy All Humans 2 on the PS2, which is like an Alien game, and I know that game is worth a pretty penny right now, but and then you sent me a message back like, that's a good guess. That game's probably like 300, but no, it's another game. And can you just explain to the audience, because this blew my mind.
Yeah, Destroy All Humans is like $30. Maybe I added an extra zero in my typo. But picked up a lot today. Very cool. But it's a game that I think is flown under a lot of people's radars, with the exception of maybe the streaming community, because I think they drove the price of this game up quite a bit. It's Piglet's Big Movie / Game. Like the cover says Piglet's Big Movie, but they cross off movie and it's Piglet's Big Game. And you wouldn't think a Winnie the Pooh game would be one of the heavy hitters on the PlayStation 2. And it wasn't up until recently. And I guess the best way to describe it from what I've read is that this game is like Piglet meets Silent Hill.
Yeah, when you explained that to me, Piglet means Silent Hill, I couldn't stop laughing, because I'm like, wait a minute. So the game developers created a video game of Piglet that crosses over like a Silent Hill, but they just covered it up with a Piglet game?
Yeah, so I just Googled it real quick, and it says Piglet's Big Game was defined as, quote, a horror comedy aimed at children, but the goal was to make them feel uneasy instead of scaring them. This was achieved by taking a subtle atmospheric approach with Luigi's Mansion, another horror comedy game inspired by Resident Evil, was the main reference for the developers. So it's a piglet based in a Luigi's Mansion type atmosphere where he's scared all the time and things like, I guess, jump out and scare him.
Okay, dude. Like when you explained that to me earlier today, I was just like, wait, what? Like, and you told me that a lot of streamers and a lot of YouTubers now, like they're playing the game, so of course the price is gonna go up. Like and not for nothing, like AVGN, the Angry Video Game Nerd, when he came out in like 2008 or 2006, whatever time frame he came into YouTube, and he started introducing all these old retro video games. It's like the prices just went up out of nowhere. It's just funny how things work like that. Like a Piglet game that nobody would even like think of now shut up in price.
Yeah.
That's insane, dude. That's just crazy. Like,
Yeah, so again, I found another article, and this is on Forbes, very reputable, back in November 13th, 2024. It says big game sells out after creepy gameplay footage goes viral. And I guess a handful of posts on Twitter sparked interest in the 2003. So this game's been around for 22 years, and I guess it finally found the niche market it was looking for.
dude, that is all right. The fact that it's on a Forbes a Forbes article, like I can just picture some like financial guy in New York City. He's about to get on the train. He's like, I need my Forbes magazine before I get on. Look at the Nasdaq and look at, hey, what's this? Piglet's game is down by 5%. Jonathan, I want all the stocks in the Piglet's game. It's
Yeah.
like, what the heck, dude? That's
It's
crazy.
it's crazy, and it's just one of those things that it stays dormant for quite a few years. The best thing about this though was, and I haven't told you this part yet, was that the price sticker on the game that I bought it from was from an old GameStop. And so when I got it today, it said, let's say game $4.99. And if you can imagine, like, as a kid, you're walking into GameStop and it's like, I want to play Piglet's big game. But somebody bought it for $4.99. And now I think complete with everything, they run close to 100. Just because of the kind of social media outlook or outpouring that it's gotten.
Dude, that is crazy. It was you said $4.99, right?
Yeah, $4.99. That was what, probably back in 2005, 2006 or something, after it came out for a few years.
Bro, that is insane. And other games like 100 something, but that's just crazy. It's just crazy how anything that's become popular and you be a toy, a video game, anything, sneakers, whatever it is. Once somebody introduces it, like, hey, this is kind of rare. So for those who are listening, like Pixel Dan, and if you guys watch Pixel Dan, I've been watching Pixel Dan for almost like 8 years, 9 years now, and Pixel Dan, he just made a video 2 weeks ago. And for those that follow Pixel Dan, check it out. He made a video 2 weeks ago that every time he goes toy hunting to stores, and he's like, oh look, G.I. Joe Ninja Force. Now, G.I. Joe Ninja Force figures weren't really that expensive. But as soon as Pixel Dan started like showing them and collecting them, all of a sudden, the prices, he said, just skyrocketed of Ninja Force figures. Just because it was Pixel Dan, like, talking about it. So it's funny because this latest video, he's talking about that, and he's at a toy store, and he's like, yeah, I'm here to pick up some of my grails. And he looks at the camera, and he's like, let me not say what they are, because every time I mention something, the prices just go up. So it's just crazy. It's just nuts, dude. Think about it, Aaron. Ninja Force, G.I. Joe Ninja Force. Bro, I was on eBay maybe last year looking up G.I. Joe Ninja Force. The prices weren't even that high. Now, Pixel Dan doing Ninja Force, dude, it's crazy now. Like, it's just nuts.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this before, and it's these influencers that have this uh, chokehold, or I wouldn't even say chokehold, I guess, but they're doing what their name is. They're influencing the community to buy this whatever it is, and it's a really interesting phenomenon because social media has kind of, okay, well, cool, this is now cool again, or and I know we're going to talk about it later, but the whole Pokemon card, you
Oh
know
yeah.
resurgence, and even I know we've talked about it before, but even the Pokemon card resurgence since the COVID era, I feel like we're in COVID part 2 when it comes to that, but we'll talk about that later. But these influencers that like Angry Video Game Nerd, or I'm trying to think another I know Pixel Dan, there's I think it's Mort's
Oh,
Garage,
yep.
Chase After the Right Price, like when, oops, sorry about that, when you when these games that might be obscure, all of a sudden come into the forefront of people's minds, and it's like, oh yeah, this game was $50, it's a really good game and it's amazing, and Angry Video Game reviews it, and he's actually giving a positive review instead of a negative review.
Yeah.
All of a sudden that $50 game goes up to $80, $100, $150, and because everybody's buying it. So then it's that supply and demand cycle because of a viral video. It's a really interesting facet of our uh, the
Right.
how people act.
Yeah, that it. See, and sometimes I say to myself, is that a good thing or a bad thing that like influencers are influencing, just like you said, the prices
Yeah,
on all these things that we love? Like,
it's
because
a
okay,
it's
oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
it's a good thing if you already have the thing that they're talking about.
Right, right. So if
because
you, right,
because then it's going to drive whatever you already have up.
right, and for those listening, we're gonna get into Pokemon. This episode is gonna be a lot heavy on Pokemon. I know we did an episode before in the past about Pokemon, but before we get to the Pokemon stuff, man, I just want to keep talking about this subject because it's true, Aaron. It's like, okay, it's almost like the whole eBay thing. Like if you have a GI Joe figure, Aaron, let's say it's a common figure, and you're like, okay, to me, this figure's worth $400. You put it on eBay for $400. Somebody snags it for $400. Now you go to the flea market and you're hunting, and somebody looks up, well, this figure just sold for $400, and it's just like, well, it's whatever somebody's willing to pay for. So same thing with influencers. It's like, hey, here's a game that nobody knew about, Piglet's game, and it's this, and like, wow, AVGN's talking about Piglet's game. Okay, wait a minute, like I didn't know about this, and then all the prices go up on that. So
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like things that pique people's interest, and I mean, this definitely was one that was on my radar, I think, since about last year. Maybe not even last year, just a few months ago. Like I said, I think that Forbes article was published in November. And I wanted to like try it out, but I was like, I don't know if I'll ever find it. And then I'm scrolling Facebook, and this guy's got this huge PS2 lot, and I see it down in the corner. I see Piglet's big game, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll take that. So yeah, we met up today, and he and the lot was just random. It had all the Crash Bandicoots, it had the Spyros, it had God of War, it had I think one Dragon Quest, a couple shovelware games here and there. I mean, it was a decent lot. Picked it up for a good price. I paid him a little bit extra so that he could drive it down to me, and because I was at work today, so we met up during my lunch break, and everything was good. But yeah, no, it was just one of those weird things that But I feel like even we might not have the outreach that Pixel Dan does, or the 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 Jesus, I can't think of
No,
the
yeah,
audience.
right, the
Sorry,
audience, yeah,
that some of these larger streamers do. But when you think about it, like even if five more people now know about Piglet's Big Game,
right,
they're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to look out for this one, and that's how it gets started, right? And but a lot of things, like if you follow Chase After the Right Price, he has like this list of like bolo games, and if you don't know what bolo means, it's be on the lookout. So it's like bolo games, the weird obscure sports games that people still pay big money for, the weird games that you might find at a Goodwill or in a yard sale that I could see us going to the flea market over the summer or in the spring and
yep,
finding Piglet's Big Game and somebody not knowing,
right, right.
it's not a Mario, it's not a Final Fantasy, it's just a random game. So I feel like this is one that could definitely fly under people's radars.
Yeah, it's crazy because and I know I've said this before to everybody listening. Like me and Aaron, it's not just toys. We just collect everything that's nostalgic or pop culture to us. Because like if we don't find toys at the flea market, we'll buy clothes, we'll buy VHS, we'll buy music, we'll buy whatever it is from the past that we grew up with, man. But video games is just crazy because, and I know we've had shows talking about games and all that, and most of my gaming stuff I've gotten from Aaron, like the NES box that you gave me, some manuals, some Super Mario Brothers 3. A lot of my game stuff I've gotten from you, Aaron, actually. A lot of my retro stuff. But yeah, it's just funny with games and toys and just everything in general. Like, name your price. Okay, this is what it's worth.
Well,
Or
yeah. And I mean, to give you a very perfect example of a game that if you saw at the flea market, you would probably just be like, that's $1. I'm not buying it. I feel like, again, this is another one that like most people don't know about, but like it is a really rare game. It was one of the last 3DS games made for the Nintendo 3DS system. It's Barbie's Groom and Glam Pups. Um,
wait,
again,
what? Wait. A Barbie game is how? Okay, how much is that going for?
guess. I'm gonna guess.
All right. I'm gonna say $850. 800 to 900.
Higher.
Wait, what? 1,200?
So there's only two sales on eBay in the past 3 months. One in December sold for $1,136. The next sale in February is $1,900.
$1,900 for a Barbie game?
And the cheapest one listed on eBay right now, complete, is $2,045.
Oh my! All right. First of all, okay, what is this Barbie game about? I mean, obviously Barbie's in it. Like, is it a platformer? Is it a run and gun? Is it like what are we talking about here? Because like, for somebody to drop 2,000 something dollars on a Barbie game, it's okay. All right, somebody must have influenced this.
No,
Somebody.
no, no. It's just a really rare game, and well, I guess the people that influenced it are the completionists, the people that say I want to have everything. So it was a very short print run, from what I understand. It didn't.
Okay.
It was at the end of the 3DS because it came out in 2013. I'm pretty sure. I don't know when they stopped producing 3DS games and moved over to like Switch games. Um, but yeah, but it's just a obscure game.
Yeah.
Didn't get a lot of copies made. But yeah, it's all about you you groom your dog and you wash it and you show it off and you put bows in its hair and it goes to shows and you make your pup a star.
Dude, that is crazy. I'm just reading here right now that the game can reach thousands of dollars at auction. For example, one sold for around $3,400 in an eBay auction back in December of 2022.
Yeah, that was probably like a unopened one.
That is insane. Oh my god. All right. It's like Aaron, have you ever heard of Retro Rick
Yeah,
on YouTube?
yeah.
Retro Rick, right? And I watch him too. Like he was just showing a video, I think it was last year, and it was him hunting, and it was like some sports game that was on the Xbox 360 or something. It was NFL, whatever. And he's like, if you guys ever see this game's worth like 700 something bucks. And I'm like, because there's so many sports titles. People are like,
Mhm.
oh, sports, who cares? Sports. Nobody wants to do sports. But now there's some sports titles that you're like, wait a minute, like that one's worth money. Like I would have never known that if I didn't watch Retro Rick. I'm like, what? This is worth that much money? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. It's just nuts. Anyways, man, we just went a deep.
No, but I mean, I feel like it's the current trends of things, like and I think it's a good segue into Pokemon because again, it's that completionist mindset. It's that I want to collect them all, I want to have them all, and when we talk about we talked about Mask last month, a little
Yep,
bit. You had even said I have all of Series 1 and Series 2, or
yep,
most of Series 2, but you want that Series 3 and those split
yep,
seconds, and it's that you got to have them all. I bought my last Food Fighter,
yep.
last month. I got them all. It's that.
Congratulations on that, because that's amazing that you have pretty much the whole complete line. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I need some accessories and some backpack, some guns and some better. You can't say guns on. Use some. What do they say? Pew pews. I gotta get some pew pews. Um. And I
The
think I need
following
like.
podcast is rated G.
Well, no, like if you watch Toy Federation, or you watch these online guys, especially on Facebook, you cannot say that on Facebook. If you say that on Facebook, it like immediately like shadow bans you.
Oh, I
So
didn't
like
even know that.
yeah,
See?
so like if you're selling an accessory, or if you're selling something on Facebook, it's like let's say a Boba Fett blaster or something. You can't even say blaster. It'll say like Boba Fett pew pew, it'll say GI Joe pew pew. Even
Man,
when Ben and Lucas do their auctions on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they sit there and they'll say, "Okay, I got a pew pew for sale." Because Facebook will shut you down, man.
that is crazy. I didn't even know that you couldn't even say like gun, man.
No.
Oh, you know what's crazy, Aaron, that you mentioned that? Our friend Peyote in Flores, another one of our toy friends. He was telling me that Marvel, no, not Marvel, it's not Marvel. Yes, Marvel Legends before they will come with like some of the guys will come with like guns, like the Punisher, with like
Mhm.
guns, and now they stopped doing that. They don't come with weapons anymore. If you have to buy weapon packs separately now. That's crazy. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, oh, and McFarlane's doing that too now.
Yeah.
But like, they're not adding like actual guns to the figures anymore.
I don't know, man. If I'm gonna buy
That's
a
so
Punisher
weird.
figure, if I'm gonna buy whatever, he better have a freaking gun. you know?
Or 10.
Yeah, or 10.
Or 10. It's the Punisher here. We need like not just one gun, but like 10 guns, man.
Hmm.
Jesus Christ, that's crazy, man. Man, but that's awesome on the pickup, Aaron. Like, hey, I would have never known that the Piglets game is almost like a Silent Hill crossover, but dressed up in a kitty little game, man, and it's worth that much money. So for those of you listening right now, and for those of you who are trying to complete a PlayStation 2 US, I think, dude, first of all, the PlayStation 2 was the best-selling game system of all time. If
Oh, I don't know about that. I think something one of Nintendo's had to have surpassed that.
the Switch, I think recently the Switch just surpassed the PS2.
I think the Wii was on top. I mean, I don't know if the Switch surpassed. Let's see,
Uh,
best-selling game system of
and
all
let's
time.
see how many games were
Oh
on.
no, it says the best. It was 160 million units. So you're right, PS2.
So
That's still shocking.
it's still the number one best-selling system till this day was the PS2, and the PS2 had over 4,000 games. The PS2 is the best-selling console of all time, selling over 160 million units. Over 4,000 games were released worldwide.
The
Wow.
Switch is close though. The Switch has 150 million units, so it's only 10 million behind.
It's only 10 million behind. Wow. But still to this day, the PS2. You had a PS2 growing up, right, Aaron?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. PlayStation is just like I've always loved PlayStation. Not that I don't love Nintendo. I still love Nintendo too. They got some good games, but
Yeah,
man,
that was my first memory card experience with the PS2. I think I said that on one of the podcasts that I bought the PS2, I got it home, and my first game was Eternal Ring, which was actually in this lot that I just purchased. So I'm gonna relive
oh,
some
look at
memories.
that. Some
Um,
memories.
but it was a horrible game, but it was like an MMO, and and or not MMO, sorry, it was like an RPG. And I was like, it was like a first person, so like the Baldur's Gate, or that was the thing at the time, was you weren't third person, you were first person, casting spells and slaying dragons and what else. But yeah, so I played it for like 2 hours, and I was like, okay, cool, like time to save. And it was like, there is no memory card inserted, you cannot save.
Oh, that's the worst.
And I was
That is
like,
the worst.
what the hell? Like, why do you need a memory card? Because like on Super Nintendo and Nintendo, if
Yep.
you say it gave you a password, or they had the batteries and the game packs, and you could just save. You didn't need a memory card.
Yep.
So this
Yep.
was my
Yep.
first experience, because I didn't have a PlayStation 1. I had an N64, so I
Oh, okay,
went right
gotcha.
into a PS2. And then I was like, "What the hell is this? I need a memory card." But because even most N64 games, like the memory card was like almost like optional, for the N64,
You're right.
unless you were like playing like WWF, or Madden or something, and you wanted to like save like a whole,
Right.
character lineup or something.
Yeah. Wow, man. It's man, we have evolved in video game stuff, man. But oh my God, Aaron, this is what I love about this podcast. We start on one thing, go on a deep rabbit hole. But the main topic that we're talking about is, Pokemon. But this is a great segue because we're talking about how prices and influencers, skyrocket things. And Aaron, we went to a Pokemon convention for cards last month, and it was over here, not too far, closer to me, 20 minutes, an hour away from where you live. It
Yeah.
was me, you, and my brother, and this is the first time I've ever been to any Pokemon con or any Pokemon thing. And let me tell the audience something. I was mind blown at the prices that I was seeing. Now, my little brother Ricky, he's been getting into collecting Pokemon cards, and he started with one, and now there's like over 200 something cards on top of my kitchen table right now, and he's really going hard on this. But what I find fascinating, and Aaron, when I was there at the convention, I was looking at tables with cards that were $3,000, $2,000. But what shocked me is that I saw people with Pelican cases. And for those of you who are listening right now and don't know what a Pelican case is, a Pelican case is just a really hard shell case. It says Pelican on it. Sometimes people keep their video equipment in there. Pretty much it's a case that's built to keep whatever you have, DJ equipment, video equipment, whatever, tight sealed so that it doesn't break. But I saw them people with the Pelican cases, and I asked them, like, Aaron, what's with the Pelican cases? And I kid you not, you give me the most serious look. You're like, Steve, there's thousands of dollars in those cases right now. And I just looked at you like, wait, what? And I remember there was a guy who opened up one of the boxes. No, 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 no. It wasn't even one of the boxes. I looked at the table, and you looked at the table, and you told me in my face, you're like, there's about $80,000 worth of cards over there in that table right now. And I almost had a freaking heart attack. But the best, and I want to say this story because, okay, Aaron, you know that when we go to the flea market, there's haggling, right? We do some haggling and some prices. But what I saw, and I want the audience to picture this right now, I have never in my life, now I've haggled for toys, I've even haggled for video games. But Aaron went to go buy a card, sell a card, one of his cards to this vendor.
We were trading, and then I was adding a little bit of cash on top.
Yeah. So I want everybody to picture this. Aaron gives his card. The guy, the vendor, takes the card, and he's inspecting the card like he's a bomb expert. Like he's looking for anything that's wrong with this card. He's looking at the creases. He's looking at the colors. I swear, this back and forth went for a good 13, 14 minutes before finally making an offer. I'm just there watching this. This is the first time I've seen anything like this. Finally, it was over. And I looked at Aaron and I was like, wow, that was the longest, I swear, the longest haggle back and forth because you guys were going about prices. He was going about the crease. He was going talking about this here with the card. I have never experienced something like that before. Because that is nothing compared to video games, nothing compared to toys. And Aaron, you brought something up to me when you said this is the most expensive hobby that there is. And you know what? Hands down, anybody listening to right now, it is the most expensive hobby that you can get into. More than toys, more than video games, because I'll tell you this, there was a card, Aaron, and you brought up this great analogy. You said, okay, Steve, think about the most expensive video game. I don't know. Let's say track and field, the tracking game for Nintendo. And there was one Pokemon card there that was like 7,000, 8,000. You can buy two of those video games, maybe even three, for the price of that one card. And I'm just like, this is crazy. So for those of you who are trying to get into Pokemon, and I don't want to keep babbling on because there's some more stuff I want to say about the Pokemon conventions. There's a lot of things I saw there that were cool. A lot of things that blew my mind that I didn't know about Pokemon cards. Like I just saw a video that the Pixel Game Squad was talking about that people went into a Target and they pretty much attacked the employee and they were scrambling through all the Pokemon cards. Yeah. It's just nuts. But Aaron, you've been doing this for a while now, though, with your card collection.
Yeah. So I mean, like I got heavy into it again. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say heavy, but I guess going to the conventions, going to the card shows, doing more active trading and seeking it out and whatnot. I still don't buy a whole lot. You know what I mean? Like I think out of the new set, I bought one ETB that I found at retail, and then I found a couple packs today for a little bit over retail, but supporting a local comic book shop here, paid for them. Didn't pull anything great, but it was just more, Colin and I, my son and I haven't opened up a lot of these packs. So I think we're up to like, 9 came in the ETB, like 13 packs. So like, under $100, right? That I've spent so far, where people are spending massive amount of money. Rolling back to what Steve and I were talking about, though. So stadium events is still stupid expensive. I don't think the stadium that we could buy a couple stadium events. That's I think the cheapest one on eBay. I think the cheapest one on eBay. I'm just trying to make sure that is like $20,000. So. I don't think we're buying stadium events, but the analogy that I told Steve that day is, okay, think of the best toy convention that you've been to, right? Like the best, right? And you're seeing, mint in box Ghostbusters, mint in box this, mint in box that, right? A mint in box Ectoglow is $700 roughly, right? Right. Mint in box Ecto 1 is $400 or $500, right? Let's go mask, right? Mint in box mask. Well, the Argentina thing or Chile thing or wherever they found that storage unit full of them, that kind of depreciated the value a little bit. But mint in box mask, $200, right? So like if you think about like a booth that just has everything mint in box, everything just pristine, very rarely are you going to see a toy that's, I mean, maybe not very rarely. Let me back up a little bit, but you're not going to see $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 at one booth. Right. But when you go to these Pokemon card shows, you see some of these booths, and there's just a display case with cards that are $1,000, $3,000, $5,000, $700, and that's just the first 5 cards you see. So
that's insane, Aaron. The way Look, anybody listening right now, even if you're not into, like, I don't collect Pokemon cards, but even if you're not into Pokemon cards, go to one of these. It's fun. I had a good time, and I'm learning because exactly what Aaron is explaining right now. When I'm looking at some of these booths, I'm like, oh my god, look at the prices like on this table right now. And don't get me wrong, yeah, you got your dollar cards and your little, cheap cards if you want to like it, but most of the people that are there, they're trying to get some good stuff, for their collection. So,
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's just one of those things that, like, I guess when you talk about quantity, or you talk about like quality of cards or whatever, each table, and I mean, this is, you talk about there's big card shows in Texas and Vegas and California and all these places. This was in Massachusetts at a school, and each booth had tens of thousands of dollars of Pokemon cards, tens of thousands of dollars, and people are buying and selling, and you can't even walk in this place. I mean, it is so packed that, like, there's a queue, there's a waiting line to get to each table. I mean, it is insane. But it's all walks of life. It's all walks of, ages. You have, young kids, grown adults, elderly, whatever. And it reaches such a broad audience that it is just blown up. But, I think, I don't want to say this is like I really hope that, it's not like the Beanie Baby craze where I
oh
think,
god.
that everybody's spending all this money right now, and then in
Right.
10 years from now, it's not going to be worth it. I think that this is a little different. I think that this is, um, it's because Pokemon's been around for so long, and
Exactly.
it hits so many generations. I mean, I started playing Pokemon when I was 15.
Right.
Like, and so, like, for my son that's now 10, enjoying it as much as he is, I feel like hopefully that will continue to extend. When he's 30 or when he's 40, he could sit there and go, man, when I was 10 years old, I had these awesome Pokemon cards. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's going to keep it going. We talked about, like, the lifespan of the video game prices, kind of a little offshoot, but I want to hit on this too. Like the Atari, you can't give freaking Atari away with the exception of some, random games right now, because the people that had the Atari are older now and they really don't give two shits about it, right? They don't
True.
care
Yep.
about it. Like, I'm worried that that's going to happen with Nintendo, but I think there's enough young people in the market nowadays that know the little Samsons have value, that know the Power Stone 2s have value, or whatever it is, that know that the Chippendales 2 have value from watching, Retro Rec or Riff, and, the Pixel Game Squad and all them. I feel like they're mainstream enough to where they're passing that knowledge down, that you don't see them giving two shits about an Atari, like,
No, you're right, Aaron. Yeah,
you
you
know.
really don't see that. Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things that I hope that it doesn't happen. But, like, some people are really banking on this investment. Like, you can't find these new sets, Pokemon card sets, in the stores right now because everybody's like this get rich quick scheme, kind of like what we saw with the GI Joe classifieds, what we saw with the scalpers. That's what's the Pokemon market is right now. And, if you could go to the store and buy a Prismatic Evolution ETB, which is an Elite Trainer box, for $54.99, which is retail, and you could turn around and sell it in less than an hour for 100, you're going to have a lot of people that don't give two shits about Pokemon cards buying these things and flipping them because they're making money.
That man, all right, Aaron, you tapped into a lot of great questions. A lot of things that you said. So, for example, you mentioned, will this keep going, down the road and not end? Just like the Beanie Baby craze, people buying Beanie Babies thinking it's going to be worth money. But the good point that you brought up is Pokemon's been around forever, for a long time now, since the '90s,
Right.
and I think that our generation, who's collecting, who have kids, like your son, who's also collecting, and then as he gets older and he has kids, this is almost like Ninja Turtles if you think about it.
Right.
Ninja Turtles, it's our generation, then our kids' generation, then their kids. Yeah, I think we're on the fourth generations of like Turtles has been around for 40 something years now. Like,
Right.
so I really think you're right, Aaron. I don't see this stopping anytime soon. But I have some facts pulled up right now that I just want people to understand how popular Pokemon is right now. In 2023, Pokemon accounted for 40% of the total volume of cards PSA received to grade. So 40% of the total volume of cards came from Pokemon that PSA received in 2023. That is insane. That's a big percentage. 40% is a huge percent of things to get created for cards for the PSA.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
insane if you think
And I
about
mean,
that.
because you got all sports, right? You got
Right.
basketball, football, baseball, hockey, then you got non-sports, you got Marvel, you got, um, you got Upper Deck, you got whatever sets Upper Deck's coming out with, right? So like 40%, you have Magic the Gathering, you still have Yu-Gi-Oh, you have the new Disney, Lorcana, but when you think about all of those markets, and then 40% of it is Pokemon, it tells me one of two things. One, investors are getting into it, right?
Right.
Like so people are grading their cards to either flip for a profit,
Yep.
or they're grading their cards to keep because they're hoping that they go up in value, right? And so I feel like that the investors are now seeing, okay, there's really money to be made in this Pokemon market, where, you know, I will say this: 20 years ago, when I was collecting heavily, when I was buying heavily, which I'm thankful that I was and I did, not a lot of cards were graded. PSA I think was in its infancy, and they did a lot of the autograph
Oh yeah.
authentication at the time,
Yep. Yeah,
but
I
they
remember
didn't.
that.
The grading cards I think was new, or newer, I should say. And I think in all of the lots that I bought, I only had two PSA graded cards that I kept, because those were the only two that were graded,
Wow.
that I had ever bought. But it is the gold standard.
Right.
Um, PSA Beckett, CGC is like, I don't want to say
The dirty
the
stepchild
yeah. You
of
said it.
cards.
You said it, not me. Um, yeah, it's just one of those things that, like, if you held a PSA 10, a Beckett 10, and a
Yeah.
CGC 10, people are going to look at that CGC 10 and go, yeah, no, I don't want that. I want the Beckett or the PSA, right? And most people would go with the Beckett because Beckett's a harder grading company than PSA. But anyways, I digress. It's now the gold standard, and I understand why. Just like you said, that guy in that interaction, it was 13 to 14 minutes, and it was a long. He's looking at it.
Yeah, it was.
We're trying to look up comps. We're trying to look up. If I had sent that card and got it graded, that
Yeah.
interaction would have been 2 minutes.
Okay. There. All right. See, I'm learning. So for those of you listening right now, so pretty much what you're saying, Aaron, is like, and I'm learning about this. If you have a Pokemon card and you get it graded, it's already graded. So now when you go to like a convention and you're trying to haggle, it's already graded. Like look, it's a 9.8.
Right.
How much would you give me for this?
Right.
Right,
Exactly.
right, right,
Exactly. So because you can look up comps, that's the big thing, comps, comparable
right.
prices, right? So like if you can look up a comp and say, okay, a PSA 6 of this card, whatever it is, sold for X amount of dollars, a 7 sold for this amount of dollars, then you already know the range, you could figure it out. Okay, it's a PSA 6, here it is, whatever. I think it's worth $500, whatever,
Right.
depending on the card. some PSA 1s are stupid money. But anyways, it's easier to look up a price because if I showed you a card that wasn't graded,
Right.
you could say, oh, I think it's a 6, maybe it's a 7, but I don't know. There's this ding in it. Maybe they'll give it a 3, right? Like, so that's where that haggling back and forth can take some time. If, let's say, you think the card is going to grade a 6, but I think the card is going to grade a 3. Well, that's big difference in money wise, right?
Right.
So
Right.
then you have to look on eBay or, and you have to look on at some sort of source to say, okay, this one sold for this amount of money with the same amount of damage, right? And that's what we were doing. We were going back and forth on eBay. This one sold, this one, because I think I was valuing the card at like 250 and he was valuing it at like 210,
Right.
somewhere along those lines. He he thought it would grade a 6 or a 7, and I thought it was closer to an 8. But that's a big difference. That 1 point, if it's a 7 or an 8, can make a huge difference. And I will say this: grading modern cards, if it doesn't grade a 10, it's not worth your time. Sorry, I hit the mic again. It's not worth your, it's not worth your time. If it doesn't grade a 10, it's not worth your time.
So all right.
And
So you said grading modern cars, not vintage.
not
Not
vintage.
vintage. Okay.
No.
Okay. So Aaron, for those listening, your advice would be don't grade the modern stuff because that's new.
No. Grade the
Right.
modern stuff.
Grade the modern. Okay.
But if it doesn't grade a 10,
Oh, I see.
because that's what everybody wants right now. Everybody wants the 10s.
Right.
Because if you go online, I don't know, let me just pull up a card. I know a card that's been shooting up. It's a Duskull from Shrouded Fable. Why this card's been shooting up, I don't know.
That's so interesting. Let's see. Oh man, we gotta talk about
Okay. PSA 10 of this card. Let me go to solds. PSA 10
Yeah.
is like 204 to 250. Okay.
204 to 250 for a 10.
For a 10 on this card. It's a Duskull from Shrouded Fable. A 9 is like $50.
Hold on a second. We went from 204 to 250 for a 10.
Yeah.
And then if it's a 9, $50.
Yep.
Dude, we just lost like maybe 80% of like.
Yeah. But that's the difference, right? So like, sure, is it good for you to say, I know the grade of this card? Yes.
Right.
Yes, it's a 9, right?
Right.
But the 9s are almost selling for the value of it ungraded.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more. So if you have an ungraded card, it's let's say a $20 card. Let's say a 9 in that $20 card is $30, right? So you pay a little bit extra because it's graded. You know what grade it is. But if it's a 10, it's like $200.
Wow. All right. So technically,
But that's modern.
right. So with modern cards, Aaron, can you say that you're technically taking a risk? Because the odds of you getting a 10 are what, 50-50 pretty much?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's that good.
I mean, what are the odds?
Well, because it's centering, and they sell these little kind of clear cards that you could place over your card to kind of see what the centering is, but is there any print lines in it? Is there any scratches in it? Is there any defects when it came out of the pack? I just opened up one of these packs and there was a dent in one of the cards fresh from the pack, and it was in the middle of the pack. None of the other cards were dented, but that one was, thank God it wasn't anything big,
Right.
but like and this is another misconception. You open up a pack of cards, you pull out a card, you put it in a sleeve, you put it in a top loader, you send that away to PSA, you're not guaranteed a 10. Even though it's pack fresh, it's not a 10.
So how much is it to send a card to get graded on
Oh, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah,
So
let's get into that because now
it's
I'm curious to find that out.
it depends on the value of the card.
It depends on the value of the card. So let me get this straight. If the value of a card is $1,000, it could be $100 to get a grade or more.
Yeah. Let me look up PSA pricing real quick.
Man, this hobby is expensive. I'm just like sitting down here. Okay, so I hope everybody listening right now is taking down notes on Pokemon because if you're getting into this hobby, we're giving you guys a lot of information here on this podcast. All right, so far this is what I've gathered from our conversation. Vintage, get vintage graded. You can get modern graded. Um, it's better to get a 10 because a 10 is going to give you a little bit more value than a 9. What, modern, it could be 50-50. Also, if you're going to get it graded, it depends on the value of the card, how much you're going to spend on it getting graded. So that's right now what I got so
Okay.
far.
Yeah. So I got it. So
Right.
all right. So if the value is under $500, it's $25 a card.
If it's under $400, it's $25 a card.
Yep, and
Okay.
that's 45 business days turnaround. So again, you're gonna say bye to this card for at least 45 days.
Like
$40.
what? 2 months? Like 2 months?
Yeah, 2 months.
Right.
$40, the same under $500,
Right.
is 20 business days.
Okay.
So you're basically paying extra $15 to half the time that they have it. Now it depends on the value of the card. So
Right.
$1,000 or under, $60.
Okay.
$1,500 or under, $75.
Okay. Still not bad. Okay.
$2,500 and under, $150.
Here we go. Okay.
$5,000 and under, $300.
Jesus.
$10,000 and under, and that's the last one that they show,
Right.
is $600.
All right. Wow.
So, but most modern cards, right, are gonna be, because I think the Moonbryon out of Evolving Skies and the new Umbreon out of Prismatic are the two most expensive modern cards, and the Latios out of Tag Team. Those are around. All three of those are around $1,500 raw. So like $75 would be the most you would pay if you pulled one of those cards and sent it in for grading.
Okay. Okay. Man, I'm.
But
Here's the but.
here's the but. When PSA grades the card,
Okay.
if the value of the card exceeds that $1,500 because they follow modern trends. So a PSA 10 Moonbryon is going for a lot more than $1,500. They then upcharge you.
Wait a minute. Okay. So let me get this straight. You send the card in. You send the card in.
Right.
They look over it, whatever. If they find out that the card that they're looking at is the value is greater than what it is going for, then they upcharge you.
Right. So you insured that car.
Right.
That card for, raw $1,500, right?
Right.
So PSA 10 Moonbryons I'm seeing sell for $2,500 to $3,000. So you basically doubled the value of your raw card, right?
Right.
But now it goes from being a $75 certification to being potentially a $300
Oh my God.
certification.
Oh my God.
But the good thing is, right? They tell you that that it's been upcharged. So like it's not bad news, but it just means it's more money coming out of your pocket.
Right. All right. Before we continue on this poker, because I'm learning so much right now, let's give some more facts about Pokemon. All right. So here it says, when did the hobby experience booms? Like, when did this card explosion? Now I'm reading this. The hobby experienced a boom in 2016 with the release of Pokemon Go. So
Yeah.
when Pokemon Go came out, people had that little nostalgic thing like, oh, Pokemon. And the XY evolution set. So in 2016, with the release of Pokemon Go and the XY evolution sets, there was a boom. Then COVID happened. The
Right.
hobby experienced another boom in 2020 and 2021 due to the pandemic. So 2016, we got Pokemon Go and the XY evolution set, and then COVID hit. And COVID is also responsible for not only the boom in Pokemon cards, but Aaron, we spoke about this at an earlier episode. We spoke about the video game boom because of COVID. People were stuck at home. They were buying video game consoles, and then they were buying Sega Genesis. They were buying Xbox. But then after the COVID pandemic, they went back to the retro video game stores to return them because, well, I
Yeah.
don't need this anymore. And also toy collecting. People were stuck at home. But the difference is Pokemon cards just stayed from 2020 to now. It's just been crazy. It's been nuts. And the first Pokemon cards were released in Japan in 1996.
Yeah.
The first. Now, I wonder who out there has that first release of cards from Japan from 1996. Now, I know those things are worth some pretty hefty penny, man.
Yeah, so believe it or not, the Japanese market is not as strong as the American market or the English market.
Really?
Yeah, so a PSA 10 first edition, because like you got to remember, like the Japanese cards, the early iterations of the cards, it wasn't first edition. There was no first edition, but
Okay.
when they came, it was just there was just one edition. It was
Okay.
just Pokemon. But when they decided to release it to the market, the rest of the world, they made a first edition run, and then they made unlimited run.
Right,
And
right.
I guess you could argue in the middle there was the shadowless run that was unintentional. So basically, you know, they kind of made it this. I think they were trying to sell it obviously more, which made sense. But they okay, first edition, first edition, which they don't do that in modern sets anymore. It's just you know one edition. But
Right.
um, so yeah, so the Japanese market is not like a Charizard Japanese first release PSA 10 doesn't, it's still worth money, but it's not nearly as expensive as a first edition English Charizard PSA 10.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. All right. This is a great topic because we're about to connect both what we were talking about earlier about influencers and how influencers influence the video game market, the toy market. Because Aaron, till this day, and we spoke about this, is the conversation about you buy a card 2 weeks ago. The card that you just buy was probably 15, 20 bucks. Then now this is 2 weeks ago. Then you look now, and the card that you just bought for $15 2 weeks ago, it's already 60 bucks. But you spent 15 bucks. And the question that I asked you, and I remember this, I was like, Aaron, what makes these cards after you buy them go up in value? And I remember you telling me, I don't know. Because think about this. It's not like this. Yes, there's influencers on YouTube talking about Pokemon cards, but what I find fascinating, that's different than toys, different than video games, is that there is no way any influencer out there can just keep track of every single Pokemon card and be like, this is good, this is good, this is good. Because that's like me buying, I don't know, let's say Toki, the video game, a monkey game on Sega Genesis, right? And I'm like, hey, this game is great, and then the price goes up. Or I buy a Pokemon card and the card was $10, and then literally 6 days later the card went up to 40 bucks. But how? Who said what about the card? What about the car went up to $40? This is what I find interesting about Pokemon cards. Is the fact that you buy these things and literally even Ricky, my brother, and I was like, dude, I should have bought that card. I'm like, why? Dude, that card was $200 on the auction and already went up 600. How? Who's talking about this card and it went up $600? Who's influencing the market? Like, it is fascinating. This is what boggles me about this trend.
Yeah, and there's no rhyme or reason behind a lot of it. I mean,
no, there's
like
not.
the I think I said this the last time, or maybe I didn't. I know I had this conversation with my son.
Right.
So my son pulled the Moonbreon from Evolving
Yep.
Skies. Very,
Yep.
very, very lucky. We didn't open a lot of packs. I'm not one to pay double, triple prices for sealed product. If I find it, I find it. If I don't, I don't. And I work full time, and
Right.
I'm not out there trying to buy scalping prices.
Right.
So he got really lucky, and I remember when he first opened it, that card was like $500, and I said, "Buddy, do you know like that card? You could sell that card right now and buy a PlayStation 5." And he's like, "What? Oh my God, that's so cool!" Because I,
crazy.
but now he held on to it.
Right.
Hitting this damn mic. I'm a hand talker. I keep hitting the damn mic. And so he held on to it. We still have it, and now, like I said, it's like $1,500, raw. And I said, buddy, I told him the other day, I was like, you know how I said that, when you open that card that you could get one PS5, and I was like, guess how many you can get now? And he's like, how many? I'm like, 3 PS5s. And he's like, what? And what drove the price? It's a cool card. It's a cool looking card. The rarity, and I mean, like, there's always going to be rare Pokemon cards. The era in the early 2000s, they made these gold star or shining Pokemon cards that they were more rare than, they were harder to pull than others, and those cards are going up. The hollows, I think, were like 1 in 4 in like the original Pokemon packs.
Right.
Now if you just pull a hollow, you get a hollow in every pack, so like it's not a big deal. Artwork plays a big factor. Is it cute? Is it different? Is it
Right.
the one card I was telling my wife, you were there when I purchased it. It was at that same show.
Yep.
It was a Drowsy, name of a Pokemon, Drowsy, from Scarlet Violet. And at the time, and I had this conversation with the seller, and I said, hey, how much is that Drowsy? And he's like, it's $40. And I was like, whoa. I said, time out. I said, I looked at this card a week ago and it was 15.
Right.
And he said, I know. He goes, I don't know what's going on. And we had a really good conversation. And I said, I just need this one to complete my set.
Right.
It was a random card. It's nothing special. It's not overly rare. It's whatever, right? And so we ended up, I think, settling. He's like, yeah, I priced it for 15 last week. I repriced it before the show. It was 40. I was shocked. He's like, I'll give it to you for 25. And I said, done deal. Let's do it, right? Because again, he was unsure on what drove this value up. Well, guess what it's at now?
What's it at now?
95.
Oh,
Why? I don't know.
Oh my God, this is.
But the only thing that I've read that might be driving this value up is the artist that made that card. The people like.
Okay.
But
I can. All right.
Why did this card, in less than 2 months, almost 9x, 8x its value?
Man, this is why I find Pokemon card collecting, the hobby, so fascinating, Aaron. Again, it goes back to the whole thing where it's like, hey, for example, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Turtles in Time on Super Nintendo, right? That game is what, like maybe without the box, without the manual, $80, 75, $80.
Is it that much?
If I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken. But if you want to complete with everything, it goes a little bit higher than that. Or I would say between
They're like 40 to 50 now.
right between 40 to 50. Okay,
Yeah.
so like that game a couple years back was a little bit more expensive. And again,
Yes, yeah, it was in that 70 to 80
right, yeah, that's
during COVID.
right during COVID, it was like between that 70 to 80. And my whole thing is like, and this is what I find fascinating is you buy a card from Pokemon. You buy it a week later, 3 days later, it goes from 15 to 45, and it's just like how? And I mean, I wasn't even thinking that, Aaron. Is it the artist? Maybe the people that made, like you said, the artist who made the artwork, he's becoming popular, so people want this card now. But there's just so many cards that I don't know. I just find this hobby of Pokemon collecting out of everything, pop culture wise, the most fascinating, the most expensive. And don't get me wrong, like just vintage clothing and that can be, but this is on a whole other level.
It's a modern day treasure hunt, is what it is.
It really is. It really okay. Me and Ricky, my brother Ricky, we went to Core Gaming in Salem, New Hampshire. And Core Gaming is one of me and Aaron's kind of like local. It's probably like 35 minutes from me, 25 minutes from me. It's in Salem, New Hampshire. And they had a section, brand new. It was binders and binders and binders and binders of just Pokemon cards.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Ricky saw this kid take out a binder, and he's just okay. For those of you listening, do you remember the movie Short Circuit with the robot? And he read the book, and he'll read the book. He'll be like, "Input."
That just brought back a core memory for me, dude. That's great. Input. He's flipping through the freaking pages.
That's what that kid was doing with the Pokemon binders. Input, and he was just taking card after card out. And they had at least 30 binders of Pokemon cards. And I'm just like, oh my God. How do you even know what you're looking for? How do you even know like what's what? And then when we're at the Pokemon convention card show, Ricky tells me, hey, I'm gonna get into Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm gonna get into this. And then Aaron, remember those kids that had the Dragon Ball Z cards?
Yeah.
They were selling and those cards were expensive too.
Yeah.
And I'm just
One Piece is another.
One Piece is another one. Yeah, One Piece. But I don't think that Dragon Ball One Piece can compete with Pokemon.
Well, I mean, it's again, they're trying to reach a different market. Not to go totally off topic, but a set that's coming out that I stopped by the local comic book store today too, and I was asking him. I said, Bob, good friend of mine, owns Merrimack Games and Comics here in New Hampshire, and I stopped by and asked him, and I said, hey. Are you going to be getting a good, are you doing pre-orders? Because Final Fantasy just got announced for Magic the Gathering. So,
really?
yeah,
Okay,
Final Fantasy has its own card game, but I guess it just didn't really catch on. I don't know if they sold the licensing rights or if they just kind of let Magic have them. But the next Magic the Gathering set that's going to come out, like they did the Lord of the Rings, that we talked about,
right.
a few years ago, is going to be Final Fantasy. And I said, well, that piqued my interest because I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. And I said, hey, are you going to be doing pre-orders? And he's like, no, because he doesn't know his position in the market. He doesn't know how many boxes he's going to get or anything like that. I was like, okay. So again, it's how does the community or the audience respond to this, right?
Right.
So talking about what we're talking about, it's like, how do you pique that interest? Is One Piece gonna be as big as Pokemon? Is Yu-Gi-Oh going to be? At one point, I think Yu-Gi-Oh was bigger than Pokemon. When Pokemon kind of was in its lull years, I felt like Yu-Gi-Oh reached that adolescent audience that Pokemon lost. You might have collected Pokemon cards until you were 12 or 13, but then if you were really cool, you needed to collect Yu-Gi-Oh because Yu-Gi-Oh was socially accepted in the high school or middle school era, you know.
Right.
But I think like this Final Fantasy thing could just be like the Lord of the Rings shit all over again. It could be, people going to the stores and buying these Final Fantasy cards because again, it piques different generations' interest.
Yeah. All right. So I know I brought this up at like old podcast episodes, earlier episodes, but like I know me, Aaron, and our friend Dave, like we have some pretty good knowledge on certain action figure lines, certain things that we're into, and at the last podcast, Aaron, we was talking about doing your own research, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where it's like you watch YouTube channels like Toy Federation, The Game
Right.
Chasers, Retro Rick. When you're into this collecting market of pop culture, you also have to do your own research and your own knowledge. Every day, I'm watching shows. I'm on eBay because when you're out there hunting, and look, I'm not saying that everybody's a scammer or everybody's trying to take you for your money, but it's good when you know at the stuff that you're looking at. And that's very important, because some people try to get over you. For example, we all know there's a lot of Kenner Real Ghostbusters that just got re-released. G.I. Joe that just got re-released from the 80s. And if you did not know that the re-released Real Ghostbusters, the back of the figure, the proton pack peg, is different than the original ones. Somebody might sell you, hey, yeah, these are the originals, and because you don't know, you haven't done your research,
Mm-hmm.
you get scammed. And the only reason why I'm saying that is it's important because with any collecting thing, and we're talking about Pokemon cards right now, again, I'm learning right now because what if I do want to get into this? The more you start learning about things, the more better, not only do you protect yourself, but you can also give advice. And this is the point that I'm giving at. Whereas, like some of my coworkers who find a lot of my coworkers and a lot of people that I know, they're not collectors like me and you, Aaron.
Right.
Like you and Dave are my actual collecting friends. I don't have any other friends, and Peyote in Florida. Other than that, there's nobody else that collects the stuff that we do. But when people that I know who are not collectors find like, hey, Steve, how much is this turtle worth? You're into turtles, and I look at the date, the year, I'm like, yeah, it was released in 2010. Is it vintage? You can kind of say so because it's been a couple years, But then when I tell them like you can probably get only probably $5 for this, and they're like, no, there's no way. I'm like, look it up on eBay, and they're like, oh yeah, I think that's what's good about us is that the people who are friends of ours who are not into collecting who try to get advice from us, hey, how much can I sell this for?
Right.
Like we can actually like give advice.
Yeah.
I think that's important, and especially getting into these card stuff. Because again, a friend of mine came up to me about Pokemon cards, and I was honest with him, like, dude, I'm just learning about this stuff right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know, like, like I can ask my friend Aaron or my brother Ricky, but like, I don't know too much. I'm still learning
Well,
myself right now.
you bring up a really good point, and I don't think I brought it up in the last podcast because I'm not sure if it happened, but the I it was the show. I went to the same show the following month, the
Right.
down in Boston,
Yeah.
and or not Boston, but Massachusetts. Sorry, and a guy bought a PSA slab or traded for a PSA slab. Did I talk about this already or no?
No, no, I haven't heard
Okay.
this. No, no, no.
Okay. And he got scammed.
Really?
The PSA slab was fake. It was a fake PSA slab, and this was a very, very, very high dollar card. It was Luigi Pikachu. They did a Japanese release of Pikachu dressed as Mario and Pikachu dressed as Luigi, and I think it was a PSA 10.
Right.
slab, and he traded away, I think, a $3,500 card for it. And because this
Jesus
card
Christ.
was about the same value.
Right.
And so it sparked this whole community, like, because if you ever go to any of these shows,
Right.
a lot of the vendors that are there record their interactions because they either have a YouTube channel or a TikTok or a Instagram, because that's how they're getting, the outreach to their community of
Right.
what they're doing. So he immediately put this dude on blast, was like, this dude sold me a fake card, la da 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 da. I lost out and showed a picture of his card just in case it came up in the secondhand market. Well, long and short of it was, the guy had a conscience and did the right thing or whatever, and ended up driving to him that evening and exchanging the card back, and gave this, I'm gonna
Jesus.
say, uh extended story of how he got the card.
Okay.
And um true, not true, that's not me to judge, but come to find out, he went to another vendor there. That vendor told him that it was a fake card or a fake slab, and he then proceeded to still trade this card to another vendor at the same show.
Wow. 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 Wow.
But to your point, it takes the learning, doing this
Right.
every day, right? And to the vendors, uh, uh, you know, he admitted that he's still new, not new to the hobby, but he's still learning. Things are changing. It's just
Right.
like the shoes. We've talked about
Yep.
shoes before. The faking of the shoes, right?
Yep.
You got to know what to look for. You got to, get a black light, because if you put a black light on a PSA slab, it should light up a certain way. They have a watermark. Look at the font, look at this. There's a QR code on the back of the PSA slab. Does it scan? Because you should be able to scan the back of that QR code, and it takes you to PSA's website with that card.
Right.
So these are all, I mean, I went on a deep dive because I'm getting into slabbed cards, and I'm like, man, if I paid $500, $600 for a slabbed card, I would want it to hopefully be authentic, because that's why you pay the premium for the slabs, is because, or graded card, aka slab, because you're paying for that security, right? This is
Right.
a PSA 9 or a PSA 10 or whatever it is. And to know that there's fake graded cards out in the world, man, that just brought a whole new level of complexity to this market. So, to your point, learning about things every day, doing this in and out, but keeping up with the trends, because the things that they described was the font. It was, because again, if you're gonna fake a high value card, you're not gonna make it a 9. You're gonna make it a
Right.
10. You're gonna make it a 10,
Yep.
right? So the big telltale was the G in gem mint, because if you have a 10, it says gem mint 10. The G was totally different than any of the regular G. So they said, look for the G, in the gem mint 10. And then there was a couple other telltale signs. I don't know if he did a black light test to it. They didn't get that far, but then I went on this deep dive on how to prove if a PSA slab is real. And yeah, it's eye opening. But again, there's people out there that are trying to make a quick dollar and take advantage of folks. And we know that there's people that fake, like the shoes that we talked about, or the
Right. Right.
I don't know many people faking action figures, but I'm sure there's somebody out there making a fake action figure that's worth something. But I don't know. It's interesting. Oh, I know with the Food Fighters there was people making fakes, because the variants have gotten so expensive, that I think all of the variants were produced in China, but
Huh.
the original release of Food Fighters was produced in Malaysia.
Okay.
And so a lot of people were taking Malaysia Food Fighters, repainting them or painting them the variant, but you can't repaint the COO because it's in the mold. So
Right.
the country of origin. So if you ever see a variant Food Fighter with a made in Malaysia stamp on it, it's fake. So I guess the people are faking, action figures as well.
Jesus. Man. Yeah, man. I definitely going to that Pokemon convention when you were Ricky really opened up my eyes, and it really opened up of how big this Pokemon culture is. I mean, there was people dressed in little Pokemon stuff, people with Pokemon backpacks. It's like I never played the Game Boy games, like the red, the gold, and the yellow. Wait, red, blue, yellow. I think that's
Those were the first
the
three, yeah.
yeah, my brothers beat all of those. I've never played them. I watched the show. I know the characters, but I just didn't get into it as my brothers did that heavily into Pokemon. And again, now is about to turn 43 next month. Now, as a 43-year-old man, I'm understanding Pokemon now. But going back to what you said, Aaron, I think it's important for everybody to do your research and learn about this stuff because, listen, for example, I'll give two examples real fast. Ninja Turtles. The first 10 figures that came out, there were soft heads. If you have the soft head figures from the first line of Turtles in the 80s, those are worth a little bit more than the hard heads. So that's just one example. Another example is Mask. And I know we spoke about this at the last episode, Aaron, where the Mask figures, if you have the first series that came out because their mask did not go past their shoulders, right? Like they
Right.
didn't have that long bracket. So that's how you can tell, like, oh, I have the first line, the not the reissues with the mask. So just that little detail right there, just that, it's just the mask.
Yeah.
That helps a lot, just knowing that right there.
Sure,
You
and I
know,
mean that's common in action figures that either got recalled or that
right,
got that made changes on the fly or
right, right.
I think Ninja Turtle was trying to do the He-Man thing, and if you ever had a He-Man, most of the He-Man's heads were soft heads or whatnot. So I think they started that way and then said, well, we want to make them more durable and long lasting because eventually that you know for the most part, those soft heads deteriorate over time.
Yep,
So,
yep.
but yeah, no, I mean, just with anything, do your research. But it's so interesting because you could literally be online watching these YouTubers, these influencers, these whatever, and man, the amount of information that is constantly flowing, you know, is just insane. Everything is changing. We talked about it in the video game market, like the fake cartridge games,
Yep, yep.
like the fake Pokemon games. That was one of the most, faked things ever. And, if you don't know what to look for there, there should be a number imprinted on the front of the original Game Boy games. On every Game Boy game, it's a random number. It might be a single digit number or it might be a double digit number, but there's a number imprinted on the front label of the cartridge. And then on the later ones on the Game Boy Advance, you could tilt it up and you could see Nintendo on the circuit board,
Yep.
where you put the cartridge in. So again, but you could go online right now and type in like how to identify fake Pokemon games, and there's a tutorial on how to do that. But I bet you in about 3 months from now, there's gonna be a tutorial about how to identify fake PSA slabs, how to identify fake
Yep.
Beckett slabs, how to
Oh
identify
yeah.
because you have to. It's almost like Catch Me If You Can. It's almost like
Jesus.
Leonardo DiCaprio's out there trying to get a fake bank check off of us. It's insane, but if you can make money off of it, it's going to be faked.
Yeah, I want to get into a quick story. So me, Aaron, and Dave were on this group chat on Facebook, and we message each other every day there. What we find, and our friend Dave, who owns a toy store with his wife called Finder Seekers. He was looking at an auction, right? And mistake me if I'm wrong, Aaron. I'm trying to remember the story because I heard the audio message Dave sent us. The person took pictures of the lot. There was GI Joe classified figures in that lot. But what the guy did not take a picture of, which he kind of hid it, was the Star Wars poly, if I'm not mistaken. It was
No,
Star
no,
Wars,
it was the Tri logo.
the Tri logo Star Wars, and Dave bids on it. When he goes to pick up the stuff that he bid on, most of it wasn't even there. There was some other
Well,
things that
no,
were
no,
in
no.
there.
So let me correct you there. Sorry.
Yeah, go
So
ahead. Aaron.
yeah, so he didn't bid on it
Right,
because the Tri logo Star Wars figures were not in the photo.
there we go.
And there was like Xena figures on top, or like
Right,
modern Star Wars on top, or whatever. So when he would never have found this out if he won one lot of like GI Joe classifieds and like another lot of some star cases, which are the cases that go over the action figures.
right.
And when he went to pick this stuff up, he saw the other lots that had sold, and I guess when he kind of like was poking around like in these other lots that had already been purchased by other people, he saw like thousands of dollars of figures that were not photographed and not advertised in the lots. So he was just upset because he would have been on all of these lots had he seen the photos, but the way that it turned out was the photos did not represent what was in the lot. So whoever bought the lots got a hell of a deal, because he said most of the lots went for like $60, $70 when they had thousands of dollars of figures in them because they were poorly photographed.
Okay. This is what I want to bring up is whether it's toys, games, Pokemon cards, even that example right now that happened to Dave. There are people that know. There are people that work in certain stores, people that work in certain things, who are around all this pop culture stuff, that they like to kind of scam people. Now, what I'm about to say, and just be very clear that I don't know if this is what happened, but I'm just going to tell the story real quick. Aaron knows that there's a guy that comes to the flea market for Dave. Every time Dave sets up, or when he was setting up in Hollis, this one guy will come and he'll be like, "I want the whole table," and he'll buy the whole table. Like, guys, whoever's listening, I'm talking about like there'll be He-Mans, there'll be play sets, and he'll just buy the whole table. Sometimes there were times where me and Aaron would just get there and he just bought the whole table, and I'm like, "Great, I can't even look at stuff because this guy just bought everything right now." Unbeknown to me, there is a Savers not too far, about 25 minutes from where I live, and I'm buying some sneakers, some used sneakers, and the price is wrong. So the girl calls the manager. I kid you not. When the manager comes out, it was like a secret fighting character just came out of nowhere. The guy, and I knew he knew me because he kept looking at me very hard. The same guy that buys the whole table from Dave came out, and he's the manager of Savers. Now, why am I telling this story? Because Aaron knows that last summer, when I went into that Savers, there was a USS flag vintage from GI Joe. The price on the box was $2,000, and it was taped up. When I tried to speak to the girl that worked there, if I could talk to the manager said they're not budging on the price. it's gonna be $2,000. So I'm like, that's funny, because nobody's gonna come into those savings and buy a GI Joe USS Flag for $2,000. And when I went back the next day, it was gone. It was gone. Now, I know what people are saying. Steve, are you saying that the guy who buys all the stuff from Dave, who is the manager from there, put a price for $2,000 knowing that nobody was gonna buy it and he probably just snagged it himself? Hey, that's not what I'm saying. It is a conspiracy theory, I know. But all I'm saying is to go back to that Dave story is that there are people that work at some of these places that know what this stuff is worth for. And if you work with Pokemon cards and you work at a place where you get Pokemon cards, a Target, a Walmart, a GameStop, you might put some stuff away for yourself. That's all I'm saying. Okay? That's all I'm saying. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah, and it happens. And I mean,
It happens.
and but I mean that's with anything. I mean, anything that's hot on the market, or
Right, right.
anything that people can flip to make money, it just the money and the greed overloads the rational thinking. And I've heard stories in the Pokemon world of people paying Target employees to call them once the distributor gets there. You know, I've had really good interactions with distributors if I'm ever at a Target or a Walmart when they're restocking. But I've seen really bad interactions too. I mean, online and stuff. But I remember I had an interaction. I think it was just before Christmas. Surging Sparks had just come out. And that's kind of what started this secondary boom again. I know you talked about the booms, the 2016, the 2020. It's
Right,
all
right.
we're Surging Sparks was the set that started this boom again,
Okay.
because 151 was always popular, but they produced a lot of it and it sat on shelves for a long time. um and now you can't find it.
Okay.
But Surging Sparks really brought it back because they added a Pikachu chase card that was the chase card to get, and like it was $500 at the time. I think it's still around $500. um and just brought it back. Well, I was waiting at for a distributor, and he was restocking, and I said, "Hey, I haven't found any of this stuff. I just want to get a couple packs for my son. We haven't had a chance to open it up," which was the truth. Like I wasn't telling a sob story or whatever. And he said, "Okay, here." And because he was waiting until kind of the wolves stopped circling, because there was people waiting there to buy everything, to buy
Jesus
everything.
Christ.
And so he handed me a pack of cards, a little booster bundle or whatever, and said, "Here you go. Thank you. Have a good day, whatever." And I was able to get that one boost. That's all I wanted. I just
Right,
wanted one. I wasn't buying them all.
right,
But,
right.
there was guys literally waiting there until he left, because he's in control of that section until he leaves, and just trying to buy it all. I just want to buy it all. Um, and if
Jesus.
Pokemon vending machines are becoming a thing now. I don't know if you know this.
No, I
So
don't. Explain this because I don't even know this.
they're popping up in Shaw's and let me see. I'll look in Massachusetts real quick. There's a couple in Shaw's up here in New Hampshire. They're all in Shaw's in
Okay.
Massachusetts. Shaw's is a local grocery store chain. They're in Worcester, Wareham, Plymouth, Milford, Medway, Groton, Fall River, and Dartmouth. And the big thing with these is they're stocked with Pokemon cards. 151, Surging Sparks, Evolving, or not Evolving Skies, Prismatic, and the big thing I'm seeing on the Facebook pages is one person can go up to one of these vending machines and just keep buying and keep buying and keep
Oh
buying.
my God.
And so these vending machines
Uh,
can't stay in stock because one
okay.
person buys the whole vending machine.
Aaron, that's just gonna bring problems. I already foresee somebody trying to tip the whole thing over, trying to steal a whole vending
Yeah, it's
machine.
like a modern
I,
day ATM.
it really is. That it is a modern day ATM. Okay, everybody remember Redbox? Who remembers Redbox here? Redbox was with the DVD. Now Redbox, and this is what I found out when they started doing video games, because they started doing video games in Redbox.
Yeah.
What people were doing is they'll go to a Redbox, let's say Super Mario Party. They'll get Super Mario Party, keep that game, and just put another disc in and just throw it back in into the Redbox.
Yeah,
So
they had to peel off the sticker with the
right,
QR code.
yep, they have
Yeah.
to put up the sticker and just replace the stickers,
Yeah.
pretty much. Um, that already caused a problem. So now you're telling me that there's gonna be Pokemon vending machines. I swear, I'm just waiting for the news, social media to be like a Pokemon vending machine was stolen, opened, tipped over, whatever the case.
Well,
Because
there's gonna
just like
be fights. There's gonna be,
fight, it's insane.
because think about this, right? Like, let's say I
right,
went to a vending machine that had Snickers, right?
right,
And you wanted a Snickers, but I was in front of you, right?
right.
And I said, no, 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 I'm gonna buy all the Snickers. Snickers is my favorite. I want all the Snickers. And you're standing behind me, and I'm putting dollar bill after dollar bill after dollar bill, and I buy all the Snickers. And you're just like, but I just wanted one. And I say, Steve, I'll sell you one for $10. And you say, no, 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 I'm not. No, I just want a Snicker. It was $1. Come on now, let's be reasonable. And I say, well, if you don't want to pay $10, I'm walking away with the Snickers. That is exactly what is happening here. One person is buying out the whole vending machine, and people are waiting, and people can't go to management because this person got there first, and they're just swiping their card and swiping their card and swiping their card
Oh, God.
until it says out of stock, and then they leave.
Man, this is gonna cause so many problems. It's bad enough that when I went to GameStop about a week ago with my brother, the GameStop employee told me we can't keep the Pokemon cards out here. We gotta keep them locked now
Yeah.
because it's that crazy.
I
I
tried to
mean,
stop by a GameStop yesterday with my son, and for whatever reason, I think they're so short staffed. Anyways, he was on his
right,
lunch. He was on his lunch break or something, and he said, "We'll be back in 30 minutes." But there was another sign that said for today, which would have been tomorrow when I was
right.
looking at it, and it said, "We have 9 uh, 2 packs of Prismatic Evolution that will be sold tomorrow." They're posting signs on the GameStop door to
Right.
say whatever their stock is the following day, so that people know, like, hey, if you want one of these 9, because they're selling like typically one per person, um, you better get there an hour, 2 hours before. It's almost like you're camping out for like a new release of a video game for
Oh
Pokemon
no.
cards.
Oh my God, dude. Listen, we've been going for a while here talking about Pokemon. I mean, we could just do a 10-part series of just Pokemon cards.
I think
But
it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be not trying to interrupt. I think it's
no,
gonna be.
no,
I think it's gonna be something that's gonna be at least the segment in our podcast moving forward.
I
I,
really do think so. Yeah,
at least for the foreseeable future.
yeah, you know what, Aaron? I totally agree with you. And I'll be honest, and I'm not out here. I love a lot of podcasts that I listen to about pop culture and stuff. Besides Toy Power Podcast, and there's another podcast that I listen to, and besides some YouTube, but not a lot of people dive too deep into Pokemon stuff unless it's like a just a truly based Pokemon podcast, just about
Yeah.
Pokemon cards, you know. But I think that you're right. I think this is going to be something that we're just going to be talking a lot about, like on our show, because I
Well,
this
because
opened up my eyes. Like
yeah,
it's I don't know. Besides modern toy collecting, even though besides modern toy collecting, because I do buy some modern toys also. I like my modern toys and vintage. But this Pokemon thing is on a whole other level. Like this is just like I don't
yeah.
know, man. I've never seen. I'm telling you, my brother gets cards every day in the mail. Every day there's a card here.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy, man. I can see how it can become addicting, man.
Well, it is addicting, and back to what we originally said, you got to collect them all. It's that completionist, right? A lot of people, myself included, I completed Scarlet Violet set. That was one of the sets that I wanted to complete. But like the when you collect magic cards, or if you collect whatever, not a lot of people are collecting the set, like the entire set,
Right,
right? That is one market that Pokemon has kind of uh, the hold on.
huh?
With new Pokemon sets, people want to complete the new set. They want to
Okay,
complete the set.
right,
A lot of people will collect some of the heavy hitters per se, but they're like, man, a lot of people collect this set, so they're going for the $5 cards, the $2 cards, and then they're going for the 100 or the big hitters of that set.
right,
Um, so it's interesting, and just goes back to what it says. You got to collect them all, got to catch them all. Pokemon, that was their whole shtick back at the beginning. Got to catch them all, and that still is today. Is these set collectors, or these flippers, or whatever. I don't even know, man. But I have a feeling that we'll talk about the toys, we'll talk about the video games, we'll talk about the movies, we'll talk about the award shows. I have a feeling that moving forward, and I know you wanted to focus on Pokemon this show, we're gonna have to have like a little Pokemon minute segment.
No, no, you're right, Aaron. I'm
What
telling.
was it? What was it on SNL Weekend Update? It's gonna be
Weekend update.
it's
Yeah,
gonna be
seriously.
Pokemon Update.
No, Aaron, you know what? You're right because even my brother Ricky's like, oh, this car just went up in value, and this was from yesterday. Oh, look what this, and I'm just like, I don't know how being a Pokemon collector, you can just keep track of like, because it's like every minute, every hour, every day,
It's
something's
like the
like,
stock market.
it really is.
Yeah.
It's I've never seen something like this before. Like, I, I don't know. It to me, it's fascinating because it's not like, hey, the real Ghostbusters vintage figures just went up $10. Oh, now they went down $5. Hey, now it's back up again. It really is like the stock. It's like the market, the stock market. It's like, what is
Yeah,
happening?
I mean, with toys, I guess vintage toys, it's more of a slow burn.
Right.
It's more of a gradual.
Right.
It's not the
Yes.
ups and downs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
There
I
we
mean,
go.
I guess during COVID, it was like, because
Right.
everybody wanted that piece of their childhood. But I feel like with toys, it's okay. That went up $5 this week, or maybe it went up $10 in the past 4 months, or well, I guess the only caveat I have to that is, if like we were talking about, what was it? The loyal subjects is getting the mask line.
Yep. The mask
Um,
line. Yeah.
you know what we talked about, what that would do to the toy prices. I feel like if a movie comes out, or if a TV show's re-released or something like that, like when Beetlejuice,
Right.
part two, Beetlejuice came out, those original Beetlejuice items went, poof, you
No.
know,
Right. Went
right,
up.
I feel like that's when you see the market shift, but then it kind of evens out pretty soon after, you know.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's I hate to say this, but it's almost like when Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger, passed away. All the Green Ranger stuff went up. Everything, White
Oh
Ranger,
yeah,
everything.
well that happens whenever anybody dies.
Yeah, like everything goes up. But I will say this: Voltron. There is a Voltron movie being filmed right now, like right now, live action. And Henry Cavill, who played Superman, he's in the Voltron movie. He's one of the main actors in it. Now, Aaron, you know I love Voltron. I have a whole shelf filled with vintage Voltron stuff, and you have some Voltron stuff. Um, I'm gonna say this right now. Obviously, we're gonna go watch that movie because we grew up with Voltron. If you have Voltron toys right now, vintage, hallelujah to you. Because just like you said, when that movie comes out and nostalgia hits people and they want old Voltron figures,
Right.
Right now, a Panache Place Voltron, the Panache Place original Voltron, if you want it all complete, you're probably talking about $200, maybe $300. Dude, when that movie comes out, that thing's probably gonna be like $600 just for that.
Right. Yeah, because it's that nostalgia, and it's
Right.
back in the
It's back in the
the it, the main
right,
viewpoint of people.
right, the main viewpoint. Yeah, and watch like, and it's just like you said, Aaron. Anything that's re-released that we grew up with, Pokemon cards, this Voltron new movie, it's all the vintage stuff is gonna go up in price. And if you have it in your collection right now, hallelujah to you, because you have something now that's gonna be up there. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just anything. I mean, it all depends on the market. It all depends on things. But to your point, and I don't know. Well, you still can't explain why the Pokemon market is doing what the Pokemon market is doing, because they're not coming out with a new movie. They're not coming out with new toys. Yeah, they're coming out with new cards, but why is this one card that's so obscure shooting up in value versus another card that is the same set is $2? you know?
Aaron, you know what's funny? You just named this podcast because I'm always trying to come up with a title, and I love that title. We still don't understand why the Pokemon market is doing what it's doing. That is the title for this podcast
Yeah.
because we don't. Nobody does. Like, we
Well,
just
and that
don't.
and that was the big thing. I watched this, and we can go on talking. I want to wrap this up, but
Right.
I watched this one YouTuber, is Garchomp. I've been getting into the guys that are at these big conventions and filming themselves. And there's the Coops collectibles, or Coops collection, or there's Garchomp. There's Bulbasaur.
Yep.
There's all these guys, and I could go on and on. I'm addicted to watching these videos, Steve. It's crazy, but he said it best in one of his recent videos. He's like, I don't even know if I want to sell cards right now, and to the point where he was saying the $300 card or the $400 card that I sold last week is now 500 and 600. The the
That's
the
crazy.
the $50 card that I sold last week is now 100. You know, and so like he's like, I don't even know. Obviously, they make a living at this. This is their
Right.
livelihood, and the buying and selling is comes natural, and that's how they make a living. But to sit there and say you sold a card last month for $400 and now it's $600, like,
Yeah.
yeah, as long as you're making profit's profit, right? Like, and
Right.
that's
Right.
what it is. But if you just said, you know what, I'm just going to set this card now, but it's the stock market, right? Like, you
Right.
set this card to the side and it's $600 next month, great. But if you set that card to the side and it's $20 next month, so it's anything. But he said it best. He's like, I don't even know if I want to sell cards right now because the market is so hot right now. Everything is going up. So I don't know.
Man, I don't know. Well, listen, before we get out of here, this was a good show, man. I really enjoyed this topic tonight. And I hope that whoever listens to this, you get a little bit of information about Pokemon. And if you're gonna get into the collecting hobby of Pokemon cards, just like Aaron said and I was saying, just do your research. Just know that there is a lot of money to be spent in this hobby. Please, if you have a family, just remember, even if you don't have a family, pay your bills first, pay your rent first, eat your food. Then whatever money's left, just get your Pokemon cards. But don't let it be your number one thing. You don't want your collecting to get into the you don't want anything that you collect to just start inter interfering with your lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Like I love toys, but I gotta pay my bills, gotta pay my rent. So just keep that in mind. And Aaron, is there anything else before we get out of here on this informational Pokemon thing? Is there anything else that we want to say about Pokemon cards before we
No,
get
I
out?
mean, I could talk about Pokemon all freaking night. Yeah, I love it. I love the hobby. One thing I will say is, like, the scalpers, this it's got to be combated somehow, right?
Right.
I've seen a lot of people talk about like don't pay scalping prices, but then you have FOMO, you have that fear of missing out, and it's like, oh well, I want to open packs and I want to have that thrill, but I don't want to pay, the price, whatever. I just want to say, like, do whatever you want to do within reason, right? Like,
Right.
I know I was tempted, and I still am tempted to buy a Prismatic Evolution ETB for $100 when I know that they're in stores for 55, because there's that chance that you could hit that $1,500 Umbreon, or better yet, it's verified that there's a God pack in that set that you can get every evolution, and it's like $4,500. Those are really rare. They're really hard to come by. But you see influencers open them up, and you see people on YouTube open them up, and you're just like, I want that thrill, right?
Yep.
You're chasing the dragon. We talked about this, in regards to toy hunting and how you find this amazing thing and you're at this high, right? And you open up a pack of Pokemon cards and you pull this $400 card and you're like, man, I just did this, right? But then you open up 100 more packs and you don't pull anything, right? And so it's do whatever you want to do within reason. Like, to your point, pay your bills, take care of your family. If you have some extra money left over and you want to blow it, have at it, right? Do it with everything within reason. But I feel like it's a slippery slope, because once you get that taste, right? And I think this is why Pokemon is doing what it's doing now. You get that taste, you open that one pack, it's like Willy Wonka, right? It's the golden ticket. You open that pack and it's like, oh my God, I just pulled this card, and this card is worth so much more than the $6 pack that I just bought. And it's like, but then you open up 100 more packs and you never get that thrill again until it's that endorphin rush. So
Yeah, that dopamine.
just do everything within reason. Just do everything, educate yourself, because call around, shop around. People on Facebook Marketplace might have a great deal. Sometimes if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yep.
Don't get scammed. Don't pay friends and family. Don't pay PayPal friends and family. If you buy something online, pay goods and services. Yeah, I mean, like, I could give tips and tricks. I mean, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but I just be careful, and don't get too caught up in the moment of this wave, because that's what it is. It's a wave. Everybody's riding the wave right now.
Yeah.
But that wave's gotta crash at some point.
So that wave's gonna come down sooner or later. Sooner or later, it has to come down. Jesus Christ, man! Like, man, Aaron, that was great, man. Thanks for that. And I'm gonna leave everybody with the most deepest philosophical mindset that the Pokemon song said. Because Aaron, we give a lot of information. And why did we give a lot of information? Because just like the Pokemon song says, you teach me and I'll teach you. Pokemon.
I love it. I thought you were going someplace else. And if I could finish with something else that was not related to the podcast.
Go ahead, finish it, Aaron.
Forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.